You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest, most efficient trading platforms in the world. MIAX is proud to bring you Spikes Volatility products. Spikes options and futures are traded on the Spikes Volatility Index, SPIKE, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction, all for ultra-low exchange fees. It's volatility reimagined. Learn more about Spikes at miaxoptions.com/spikes. Options and futures involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution and trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Friday. It is noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. It is time once again for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever insightful, at least we hope so, Options Insider Radio Network. Reminding you, wherever you get this content, make sure you keep rating and reviewing. It does help the legion of new folks we see discovering all our different shows these days. Helps them find a path to our door. Gives them a lighthouse in these stormy market seas. And, of course, keep those questions and comments coming, too. We do love to hear from all of you guys and gals out there. And let's see who we're hearing from on the old show today. I'm very pleased to say we are joined once again in the MIAX hot seat. Old friend, he hasn't been on in quite a while. In fact, producer let me know before the show, he hasn't been on since before the election. It seems like that's far too long. I'm pleased to welcome back Mr. John Smollen, the Executive Vice President, Head of Exchange Traded Products and Strategic Relations, a.k.a. the guy with the longest business card over there at MIAX. John, welcome back to Vol Views, sir, for the first time in 2021. How crazy is that?
It's been a long time, but I'm glad I'm here, and I think the timing is right. You know, I only come out when I have something important to say. I'm like the groundhog, but I'm here, and I'm excited to be with you guys again. Nice to connect.
Oh, that's a bit of a hint then. He might have something cool up his sleeve. We'll get to that in a minute, but we are also joined, holding down the Matrix hot seat today, by the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, by way of a Robinhood trader or two near you by way of a Vol newsletter, by way of a whole bunch of stuff. Mr. Meatball, or I should say Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to Volatility Views, sir.
It's good to be here. I'm enjoying keeping the MIAX hot seat warm. I'm keeping it warm for them. And actually, one of my students I just had said, "Hey, I first heard your Rock Lobster voice on VolViews." So I was like, "Hey, there you go." Now I'm going to have to pay Longo for marketing again. He's going to be hitting me up with that tin cup. So I don't know what the heck we're going to do.
Shaking my cup like crazy as we head right on into the Volatility Review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, buddy, welcome to the Vol Review, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is going on from a vol trading and a trending and analysis and unusual activity and all sorts of fun perspectives. And let's kick it off out there. You know, the market's coming at the end of the week, mostly green, a little bit mixed on the NASDAQ side. NASDAQ seems like it's having a hard time figuring out where it wants to go today. So it's slightly in the red, but most of the other major indices, about 0.2% or so to the green. So not quite the joyous explosion of upside that we've seen of late across the markets, but still a bit of green on the screen. That means since our last show, we're seeing red on the vol screens coming into the start of the show. We had spikes at a 15.5, spikes at a surprising discount out there to VIX cash out there. So breaking the 16 handle, getting into a 15 handle. Spikes is not waiting. Spikes isn't playing around. They're straight to the 15 handle right now. Puts it down 2 points from our last show. Kicking off the show, we had VIX cash at about a 16.25. That puts it down about 0.75 of a point from last show. And VVIX, aka the vol of vol, as you might imagine, vol's moving. So that's getting back up there again, back up to about 110. And that's up about 9 points from our last show. John, let's start with you. You haven't been on in a while. I know you got some cool stuff up your sleeve. I want to get to that in a second. But first, you've been around the options trading world for quite some time. I won't say how long, out of deference to you. So you've seen a bit of vol in your day. You've seen vol come. You've seen vol go. You've seen an election or two, which we saw pretty much after your last appearance here on the show. And now, of course, seems like we're in the post-pandemic vol regime where maybe we're getting back below the 20 handle in VIX or spikes for the foreseeable future. So we've seen a lot of ebbing and flowing in volatility over the course of the past few months. I'm curious for you, sir, when you're not busy there day to day doing all your various strategic relations, what's been catching your eye from a vol perspective these days, sir?
Well, you know, as a former trader, you know, I pay attention to the money. And, you know, I know that you guys in the last couple of weeks have discussed some of these big trades that are going on in the VIX. And that's always something I always used to keep my eye on when I was trading my own money. So that's important. It just, you know, the money that gets invested is by people. I always assumed as an option trader that every order was.
He was so deeply invested in what he was about to say that we lost him there. Let's see if we can get him back here on the show. While I get him back, Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what is lighting up your tape out there from a vol perspective, sir?
Well, if you think about it, what are we seeing today? We're seeing, I think we're normally too sour to say never in the history of option trading has SPX been up this high. And I think we're there again today, right? We have all-time highs in SPY. I think the Qs are begrudgingly trying to join. Yep, it is begrudgingly trying to join. And VIX is, I think we have a low right now. As of today, we'd have a low close for the cycle. So you have all this stuff confluence. So market going up, vol coming in. So there's really an expansion anymore because we're not moving as fast up anymore. So you also have what I would call record vol premium. Not record vol premium because we had like those huge vol premiums in Jan and we had those huge vol premiums in September. So we have actually pretty fat vol premium relative. So the front end of volatility is really diving down low. So like the market again, there's not that huge. There aren't a lot of sellers at the back end. There are. I mean, it's lower than it was before. But I think why you're getting kind of the premium you have in VIX now is like the front now. The shorter term options are now starting to get much cheaper. I'm seeing like forward vols in the 10s, the 9s, like lower vols. So we got pretty darn low vol in the front, which I think is a little bit of a bargain. Relative, and you got a little more expensive vol in the back, and that gives you that kind of steep futures curve, and that's what we got. So it is the market as far as vol options are going. They're not. It's kind of more signaling like more benign stuff. We got earnings coming out, and everybody just thinks, at least market players, thinks it's all good times.
It's all good times if you're out there in Dogecoin trading almost 40 cents right now. Yeah. This thing was a fraction of a penny a few weeks ago. The insane times that we are all living in here together. Before we dive back, let me see if I can grab Mr. John once again. Having some technical issues over there in the land of MIAX out there today. Always fun. But of course, it is interesting technical stuff. That's why he wanted to come on today. Actually, he had some cool tech tools up his sleeve that I think our listeners are going to find interesting. Let's see if I can get him back. I guess I will just discuss it myself because it is pretty cool. Let's just try one more time. See if the third time is the charm. Mr. John, are you there, sir?
Give a name.
Yep, the answer would be no. All right, so we'll see if we can get him back later in the show, listeners. But what he wanted to talk about, which is really cool, is this thing you may have seen out there now, floating around out there. These folks in MIAX, when they're not on the show, they're kind of busy putting together a lot of wheeling and dealing behind the scenes, and they just put a deal together with the folks over there at Vesica, their tech vendor out there, to make a cool, I guess you can call it a trading tool, a research product, kind of a bit of a free analytics package for you guys out there. And we're going to share the link for you folks out there now. So if you're listening live, we'll put it in the chat. We'll put it out via social media as well so you can get access to it. It's called Shift Search. It's a pretty cool thing. I guess it's technically being called MIAX Shift. And I guess that's why I wanted John to come in to give you all the titling and all the names for exactly officially what it is that we have here. But it's, if you've ever played around with things like Trade Alert or things like that, it's kind of like an entry-level version of that. And it's completely for free. You can go over there to that website, type in whatever ticker you want, and it's going to show you all the unusual and interesting options activity on that name today. All right, let's see if the fourth time is the charm. Mr. John, are you there, sir?
Hello, this is John. Not a bad.
No, he's not. He keeps teasing me. He says he can come back on. He says his phone is working. So I don't know what's going on over there. But anyway, check it out for yourselves. I'm going to try to get John back on later in the show so he can break it down in much more detail because he was behind the investment that actually brought this to life. But it's MIAX, MIAX .shift search, SHIFT search, just like the word search.com. MIAX.shiftsearch.com. Type that into your browser and then bang around with it. It's really pretty cool. I was playing around. I just discovered this a couple of days ago myself. I've been playing around with it before the show. You can type in any symbol, and it's going to show you all sorts of cool info on what was trading. Some of the stuff we talk about like here on the show, like, most actives or, hot strikes or things like that. It's going to show you that kind of stuff. So if you've been waiting for a tool that'll give you that, maybe you don't like what your broker has to offer, MIAX.shiftsearch.com is the place. You have to check this out, Mr. Rock Lobster, and show it to your folks in your pit chat. I think they might like it, sir.
I will. I'm doing it right now, and I just got to go navigate to it. And they don't like it when I just said, "Hey, go check this out." I actually have to try it first. I try it and see how it works, and and provide some value. I just can't but I'll do that though. I'll say, "Hey, get over there and just try it out."
Let's move on out to the futures and see what we got going on out there. Coming into showtime, we have that front portion of the curve coming in a bit. April future getting close to going the way of the dodo, so it's starting to line up closer to the cash. It's about almost a 3/4 of a point premium to the cash coming into showtime. That's about almost a full point below where it was this time last show. The May future, a little more than 3.5, about 3.6 points premium to the cash. That's not even half a point. It's about 0.4 of a point lower than the last show. So April coming in, May still staying frothy, even though it's come in a little bit there as well. Mr. Rock Lobster, anything catching your eye out there from a VIX futures perspective these days?
I thought that The May is pretty. It's well above our historical fair value for a 1 month contract, so it's pretty juicy. Part of that also is because the front end of SPX and the back end, there's big divergence in vol. So the market is basically, if you want to come and sell those short-term options to vol to the liquidity providers, they were more than willing to buy them at a much lower price. And I think that's kind of what the shape of the curve is telling people now. There still isn't the longer term big upside juice seller. They're a little bit more back than they were before, but they're not just coming in pounding the crap out of the downside yet. So we'll see when that happens, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for like the May contract in VIX. I think there's huge opportunity for people that want to trade short vol via puts. VXX is going to split next week. I know we're going to talk about that. And that thing is that's going to be all that May contract. So the road to Palookaville for VXX could be quite severe right after they split it, man. It could just be a free fall. So very interesting times for vol, especially when there's that much premium. The premium might not be in the short-term options in SPX. That vol is low. But what happens is via the magic of Ford vol, the premiums in the future. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
Get on out, see what opportunities there are out there in the options right now. Let's start in the land of spikes. Spikes has pretty much the same size positions on we saw last week, a bunch of 1,000 lots across the board, including the June 50 calls and the June 25 puts. So a bit of a June risk reversal. Of course, the 25 put is so deep in the money. It's kind of just like a funky, almost strangle at this point. But yeah, that's what we got. 25, 50 calls, thousands of each of those. 25 puts, I should say, 50 calls, 1,000 each of those. Followed by this April 4-way we talked about a little while ago. It was the April 30-40 vertical, 1,000 times of those versus the April 18-22 put spread there. And again, both of those now in the money as well. As we said, spikes coming into Showtime at a 15.5. So spikes getting aggressive to the dark side there, which is interesting. So again, those are your top positions out there in spikes land. Going on out to VIX land. Actually, some decent paper on the tape today. We're seeing about 433,000 contracts on the tape right now coming into VIX options today. So that's pretty hefty, especially given the fact that the ADV is only 493,000. That's dropped decent amount since our last show even. Still, it's broken the 500,000 handle now on the ADV land, which, if you've been listening to the show for a bit, that it was well north of 700K not that long ago. So that's come in a couple of 100,000, the ADV. Looks like today may buck the trend. Again, about 60,000 contracts away from the ADV. In terms of the top positions, what's lighting it up out there, what's dominating the tape in VIX land right now? Cost you 128,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VIX land. That isn't that much. That gets you to the April double calls, aka the April 55 calls. Number 9, 129,000 of the May 20 puts. Number 8, 139,000 of the April 21 puts. Number 7, 144,000 of the April 30 calls. Number 6, 169,000 of the April 18 puts. By the way, if you're wondering, 50-50 calls versus puts in the top 10 for the second week in a row. Kind of an interesting bifurcation of our OI in the top 10 there. For a long time, there was all puts all the time. And before that, historically, VIX is usually all calls all the time. Right now, we're still in that 50-50 mode, which is kind of interesting. Again, number 4, 169,000 of the April 18 puts. Number 5, April 60 calls, 190,000 of those. All the way up to number 5. You haven't even broken 200K yet, listeners. Number 4, 193,000 of the April 22 puts. Number 3, 230,000 of the April 20 puts. Then we get to that funky July vertical that went up last week for size. It's the July 40-25. That's pretty much our number 2 and number 1 there. July 40s have 239,000. July 25s, 247. So not even 250,000 for the number 1 spot in VIX land. Still, net OI-wise, it's pretty strong. It's 9.8 million contracts open. That's 5.75 million calls and 4.06 million on the put side. So interesting stuff. So even though the overall ADV is not exactly that high. The OI outstanding right now is actually fairly decent, which is kind of interesting and perhaps kind of surprising out there, given the almost 10 million contracts. That's usually kind of a close to a high watermark for VIX. And of course, it comes off with expiration and we start the dance again. Speaking of starting the dance again, let's see if the fifth or indeed the eighth time is the charm. Mr. Smollen, are you back with us, sir?
I am. I paid my internet bill. I'm back on.
There he is. All right. The third or the eighth time is indeed the charm. We lost you right in the middle of where you were talking about what you've seen out there from a vol perspective of late. And then afterwards, I did a poor attempt at discussing your MIAX shift. I think you are far more familiar with the product. You can do a much better job than me. So also for our listeners, break down what the heck is this MIAX shift thing you're so excited about?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. So we were introduced about a year ago to a young group of entrepreneurs out of California, a company called Vesica, and two of the main guys, Alex and Saad, super smart guys with a different vision of how trading information should be available. And they came to us and we connected. And essentially what they're doing is they've applied kind of Silicon Valley approach to data, not a financial approach historically. And they've created a tool that we partnered with them on called the Shift by Vesica at MIAX. And essentially what it is it's offered to MIAX for the foreseeable future for free to our customers. That if you go through MIAX, you can access the Vesica and get a login to Shift. And what Shift is a real-time times and sale page for you to see everything that's going on in the option market real-time right away. So if you want to see what's traded in the last week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks back, they go there. They have a phenomenal data set that they figured out how to organize and access. And it's in an environment where exchanges get beat up because we're being chased because of what we charge for data. We think this data should be available. We want to put it in people's hands. We think that the Robinhood trader, the E-Trade trader, the Schwab, anyone that trades, you always want to see what's going on. And that's always been a challenge, even back from my days when I market make, and as you did, that if you wanted to see what happened, you needed to know what the codes were. You had to have the right machine. And Shift does that. And it's available through MIAX. You can get right to it. But we think that for anyone that really is trying to come up with how to look at what's going on in the market, that this is a revolutionary first step. We think it's we're going to build off it. They're going to build off it. But for now, this is going to be a real good tool for people that want to trade.
Yeah, I think this is great because you mentioned it. You're right. There is this kind of differing approach. You used to see this on our Trading Tech Talk show. There's the Silicon Valley approach to data. Then there's the more, let's say, Chicago or New York, whatever market center you want, the exchange viewpoint of data, which is typically very different. They view the data as a silo and a profit center versus the Silicon Valley view that, hey, data should be free and should be easily aggregated for everyone, and we can make all these cool tools. So I'm very excited to see that you guys over there at MIAX are embracing that mindset and putting this data out for everyone to play with, which I think is fascinating. So I mentioned the URL, I'll mention it again, listeners. It's MIAX, MIAX.shiftsearch, SHIFT search.com. You can go play with it all, as John said, completely for free. And John, it sounds like this is the beginning of some of the cool stuff you guys are working on over there. What's the plan for this partnership going forward? I'm assuming there's more tools and more functionality coming down the road.
Yeah, we launched last Friday, very soft launch. The team out there wanted to get the product out there. They wanted to get it tested. I've gotten quite an education from them on how the Apples and the Amazons and the Googles approach product launch, and their approach being get it out there. And what's out there 6 months from now might be something entirely different. And I bought entirely into their vision. It's their business. I'm here to help them be more effective. And yeah, there's going to be a release every Friday night. If you're a user and you see something you want, you can connect to them and speak with them. And they're creating kind of an upgrade list as we speak. And then, eventually MIAX is going to take a lot of the data, and we're going to start organizing that data from the perspective of a trader, and a trader being anyone that trades a one lot all the way up to 100,000 lot, of what we think is valuable information for you to think. So like Mark, one thing we're thinking about, this is just, we've got a list of things we're working on, but something along the lines of, okay, hey, show me in the last half hour, the most activity in 3 lots or less, right? And bang, we'll go in and go, hey, here are this is where retail's aiming at, and then we get down to the next level. Are they buying? Are they taking the offer, hitting the bid? Is it mid quote? But information that helps you kind of create ideas. You have guys, that are creating, like Meatball, who's giving ideas, teaching people how to trade. But ultimately, to have a long-term survival in this business, you need to think for yourself, and we want to help contribute to that process.
That's interesting stuff. I can't look forward. Like I said, I just learned about it not that long ago, so I've been playing around with it a little bit myself. I'm looking forward to playing around with it more, and also to see what iterations you guys have in store for us coming down the road. This is very cool, listeners, to have access to this kind of data and these kind of tools for free. That doesn't come around very often in the options space. Data is a very precious thing in the world of options, and folks tend not to give it away for free. That's why this is pretty cool. Check it out for yourselves over there at miax.shiftsearch.com. Let's keep on rolling now with the VIX options. We were breaking it down. Like I said, today actually a surprisingly active day. I had a chance to pull up what's going on out there. There's already 445,000 contracts on the tape right now. Seems like a funky, if it's a straddle versus puts, or if it's a ratio put spread with the call kicker. Either way, like I said, there's a decent amount of action on the tape today. The most active contract right now are the April 20 puts today. 46,000 of those have gone up already, followed by 39,000 of the April 17 puts and 29,000 of the April 17 calls. So yeah, the April 17 straddle, call it what you will, is going up there as against the 20 puts. Mr. Rock Lobster, have you had a chance to notice this size print going up in VIX land, sir? Have you had any thoughts on it?
He's using my service provider.
Yes, he is. He has trouble with the mute button over there, Mr. Rock.
Exactly. Sometimes, how long? 10 years? 10 years doing the show. Still, the mute button befuddles me.
It's a big red button that says mute on it.
I wish I had more color for you on this one, but unfortunately, sir, I'm a huge dud on this particular trade. I did not see it go up on, but I'll try to pontificate on it if possible, but right now it's escaping me slightly.
It is a bit of a weird one. It looks like a ratio on the puts with, I guess, against, because they also did the 17 puts and the 20 puts, size on the 20 puts, but they also looks like sold the 17 calls. So a weird one. Straddle with in the money put kicker against it. Not one you see very often and on a ratio. Either way, weird stuff. That's number 1, number 2, and number 3 today, listeners. And then number 4, the June 18 puts, 20,000. Number 5, the May 20 puts for about 16,000. Yesterday, a little bit more paper, 584,000 contracts on the tape. The most active contract, the May 16 puts for 36,000, followed by 27,000 of the May 20 puts, 23,000 of the April 26 puts, 18,500 of the April 20 calls, and around out the top 5 yesterday, 17,000 of the April 18 calls. Going out to Wednesday, a little bit more paper on the tape there as well, 599,000, also the most active day of the week, at least so far, with the most active contract being the the May 20 puts with nearly 50,000, about 49,000 going up there, followed by 38,000 of the May 16 puts, 30,000 of the April 20 calls. Number 4, 27,000 of the May 21 puts. And round out the top 5 there, 23,000 of the April 19 calls. Going out to Tuesday, 530,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog on Tuesday, 53,000 of the April 20 puts. 34, almost 35,000 of the April 18 calls. 30,000 almost exactly for number 3 of the April 18 puts. Number 4, 29,000 of the April 17 puts, and round out the top 5 on Tuesday, 16,500 of the July 26 calls. And then on Monday, we've got the lightest day of the week, only 386,000 contracts on the tape. The most active contract, again, going back to some of these, shall we say, outlandish strikes. The big dog on Monday, 60,000 almost exactly of the June 110 calls. Yeah, we're going back to that territory, listeners. Those are always fun. 60,000 of those. I don't have a price here up top of where those traded, but whatever they traded for, it's too much. Number 2, we got 30,000 of the SEP 80 calls. So that's what we were playing at on Monday, listeners. So it's only 386,000 contracts went up in total. 90,000 of it went up in, shall we say, nonsense call strikes. Then we get to number 3, about 19,000 of the April 21 calls. Number 4, 17,000 of the July 25 calls. Back to that vertical again. And number 5, 14, almost 15,000 of the July 40 calls. So fascinating stuff. Mr. Rock Lobster, any of this paper and VIX land come across your radar and catch your eye this week, sir? Or perhaps the eyes of the crazies in your pitch chat?
Well, now that I have that little blinky white mute button figured out, what has caught our eye was the action is picking up like 16 level puts in VIX. That seems to, we were trying to buy them all week. I was trying to buy them at 20 cents, could not do it. Now they're like 30 bid at 35, and I don't think I'll ever see 20 cents again. So yeah, they're starting to pick up this, again, because cash is low for VIX, or not low, but it's 6 wherever it's trading. Doesn't mean it's low, it's just where it is. And you get pretty high future premium. All of these just near the money puts are very, very inexpensive. So, if we do get any kind of like vol regime change where things kind of right themselves as far as term structure VIX wise, all of a sudden these puts can be worth a lot of money. So I think 16 is no longer a bridge too far, or even 15 anymore for vol, even though it's going to take forever for us to get there. Like literally, I was trying to do the analogy of it's like when you pull your plug in the tub and all the water drains out. It's like you just pull the plug a little bit and the water is slowly draining out. So it's going to be more along those lines. That's why you see that pricing. So it does not surprise me that a lot of the action now or a lot of the big volume, when you look at, your top volume there, except for Monday, when people were still holding hope against hope by the end of the week, though, if folks are just buying puts. So I think that's a trend that, at the beginning of the week, everybody's worried, and as the week goes along, like, everything's fine. We can't possibly go down.
What can possibly go down, though, is VXX, and it's doing it yet again. Listeners, the product that reliably likes to erode is doing it once again, breaking through the 10 handle. We've been talking about that for a little bit, at about a 980 as of a few minutes ago, puts it down about 2/3 of a point from where it was this time last week. A whopping 250,000 contracts exactly on the tape right now out there as well. It's getting close to that ADV, which continues to drop. It was north of 400 not that long ago, right around 400. Now it's at 310,000. That's down another 9,000 contracts from last week. We've been saying for a while, this product seems like it needs a bit of a boost. It needs a bit of a, shall we say, reverse split to get the action going again. And for all of you out there who've been asking, I said it on the show last week. I said, I bet you. Everyone was writing in asking about this split. I said, I bet you right after the show's over, they're going to announce it. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So we talked about it on Option Block on Monday. But if you missed that for some reason, of course, the news you've all been waiting for. They announced last Friday, right after the show, that they have a 4-for-1 reverse split coming next Friday, as of next Friday. So wherever it closes Thursday night, that's where it's getting its 4-for-1 split. So it seems like where it is right now, it's going to be even shy of the 40 handle, because we're shy of 10 handle right now. So it's effective after the close of business, April 22nd, to take effect the open of the trading next Friday. So this time, next show, we'll have a much higher handle of VXX. And I know a lot of you out there that will excite you. I see people already chiming in about that very fact right now there who are listening live. But yeah, it's a thing we've been waiting for a while. This product needs it. There's still, as you mentioned at the top of the show, there's still some juice than that May future. So that should make some downside playing in VXX certainly a little bit more exciting than going from, let's say, 10 to 980. Going from, let's say, around 40 to the mid 30s or somewhere else, maybe. That's certainly a little bit more exciting, I think. Right now, though, 250,000 contracts on the tape. Let's break down our top VXX positions here. Again, it's kind of getting light as people have been waiting for this reverse split. Be interesting to see how it kicks into gear maybe after next week. Right now, it costs you 28,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VXX. By the way, there's 70 to 30 puts to calls right now. So there's still 3 calls in the top 10, which is fascinating in and of itself. Number 10, 28,000 of the June 9 puts. Number 8, 28,500. Number 9, I should say, 28,500 of the April 15 calls. Number 8, 29,000 of the April 10 half puts. Again, these are, when I say April, most of these are going out today, listeners. So this will change again even next week. These aren't even your weeklies going out next week or anything like that. Number 7, 29,000 of the May 10 puts. Number 6, 33,500 of the May 12 calls. Number 5, 34,000 of the April 10 puts. Number 4, 36,000 of the April 15 puts. Number 3, 36, almost 37,000 of the May 9 puts. Then we get to our second call here, the 42,000 of the April 20 calls. If someone likes that 20 strike, they keep piling in there for better or for worse, probably the latter. Every month here. Last month, the 20s were the sizable position. This month, I should say, the number 2. And the number 1 with the bullet out there are 58,400 of the April 14 puts. Again, when I say April, this is all going out this week. So very interesting top 10 next week when we have a split and have a lot of these contracts have gone off the board. In terms of action right now, it's the 10 puts, as you might imagine, going away today that are leading the dance with about 21,000 on the tape so far. Mr. Rock Lobster, how excited are you and the crazies in the pitch chat that the day we have waited for has finally arrived? VXX going back up, sir.
You know what it is? It's actually Mark posted that VXX is going to be 40 by the end of the week. And he got some people who are like, dude, you're high, man. It's only 10. That I guess nobody knew that. Or some people didn't know that.
They didn't get the joke.
They did not get the joke, which I thought was kind of funny. But what it does is I don't like trading the kind of stubby dead contracts afterward. But like this is the fun part of VXX. Oh, what puts you going to buy? 6 months out, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of interesting trade now around the product that it's not going to split 4 for 1 in the next year, or most likely not. So. It becomes a little bit more fun to trade. So yes,
I don't know the way it's eroding these days, sir. We could be doing this dance again in 3 months.
Right. Well, that's another thing too, because we have right now VXX is, it's mostly the May contract. The May contract's at 20, right? So it's going right into the split, owning a relatively expensive contract. Doesn't mean VIX can't go up next week, or gosh knows what could happen. But I'm just saying right now. Historically, where with VIX cash here, this is a pretty expensive contract. So, like I said, VXX, I think, well, I hope so anyway, is on a one-way trip to Palookaville. So we'll see how long this May contract can hold up. I have a feeling it's kind of waiting for earnings, but I mean, once they list, like Monday after they split it, I would assume people are going to dive in and buy a bunch of puts in this thing, but. That would be my assumption.
I'm buying all the 60 calls I can get my hands on, sir.
Exactly.
Getting them all. Give them to me. Isn't that how it works after these reverse splits? You go higher, right?
Exactly. You buy the 60 calls and the stock. It's very easy for the stock to go up there. Very, very easy.
Very easy. This is like free money. I don't know why they don't make this trade illegal. It's so easy. It's not easy. It's predicting when the hell UVXY is going to do this split. So everyone was asking us that. As far as I've seen, maybe Rocklock's has seen something different. Coming into Showtime, I have not seen any news on UVXY. So it's down to 4.5. It's down almost another half a point from where it was last show. The ADV is suffering just like VXX is. It's down to 280,000. It's down another 13,000. And today, light volume, only 130,000 contracts on the tape. So not a lot to really parse in UVXY. Everyone's waiting for that. That thing's half of what VXX is, and VXX has already announced its reverse split. The top position in UVXY right now, if you're wondering, the April 5 calls going out today, nearly 60,000 of those bad boys. And then we got the April 30s, number 2, 43,000. April 7s, I should say, expiring on the 30th for number 2, about 41,000 for number 3 of the June 5 calls. Number 4, 33,000 of the April 11s. And number 5, 22,000 of the April 4.5 puts. So there you go. That's your top 5 there in UVX5. Not a heck of a lot else to parse there as we're waiting for the news for that one to regain some of its luster as well. You know what has regained its luster, though, listeners? It's earnings season. Last show, we were kind of on the dregs of last season. Now we have a hot new season in our hands, and things are popping off fast and furious. We had a lot of financials popping off earlier this week. Wednesday, we had JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, little Mimi there with Bed Bath & Beyond as well. Thursday, Bank of America, Rite Aid, Citi, Delta Airlines, and PepsiCo and Alcoa. Today, we had Morgan Stanley, Ally, and PNC. We have earnings move and earnings move results reports for a bunch of these. Let's just do a few of them. Bank of America was lighting it up. They were at about 39.88 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 2.6%. They delivered nearly 4%. So you might say, wow, that's exciting. Earnings volatility outperformance. We haven't seen that in nigh on a year since the pandemic really started. But don't get your hopes up, because that was, at least so far, kind of one of the few that outperformed. We had Rite Aid. They were at 19 even going into their announcement. They were pricing in 10%. They delivered 7.3%. We had PepsiCo. They were pricing in, well, they're at 142 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 1.7%. They delivered a whopping 0.3%. So seems like we're heading for the way we pretty much every other season so far. But you know what? It's just starting. So I remain optimistic that we're going to see a rock'em sock'em earnings season this time around. We got some big names popping off. Like we said, we have Ally today before the bell. They were at $47.75. They were pricing in about $1.70. In the past, they've moved about $1.70. So not a lot of extra juice being priced in there. And they were, let's see, they're at $47.75 this report. They were at 47 and about a half right now. So again, not a lot of juice there at all. Underperformance across the board here. Let's look at PNC. Was also popping off today before the bell. Let's see, they were at $179.34 as of this report. They were pricing in $4.34. In the past, they moved $4.99. So they got the memo. Get light on the vol. And let's see, they were at $179.34 as of this report. They were pricing in $4.34. They've moved exactly $1.34. So dramatic underperformance there as well. Let's go away from the financials. Let's go out to Beamer, IBM. Maybe something outside the financials can buck the trend, but they're not until the 19th after the bell, so we won't know for sure. As of this report, they were at $132.63. They were pricing in $5.40. In the past, they moved $7.10. So again, pretty light on the vol side in IBM. Let's go out to airlines. Maybe airlines are a place we can find some vol these days. God knows they've been moving of late. United Airlines, about $57 as of this report. They were pricing in $2.82. In the past, they've moved $2.86. So no extra juice to be found. Let's go beyond that. We talked about Johnson & Johnson. They're on the 20th. They've had some vol of late. They're at $159.92 going into this report. They're pricing in $3.57. In the past, they've moved $2.96. So a little bit extra juice to be found in J&J. I think it's kind of hard to argue it's not warranted. So there we go. We got J&J so far. And we've got, what was the other one? Oh, yeah, Bank of America. Those are the two that were pricing in a little bit extra juice out there. Then we got, let's see, Netflix. Never one to shy away from some vol. $5.40 even as of this report. They were pricing in $34.18. In the past, they've moved $33.53. So a little bit more than half a buck worth of extra juice. Not a heck of a lot out there. You can find all these reports for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the options news and articles tab, and you're off to the races. We're like MIAX in that sense. We like to give you guys data for free whenever possible. So check it out for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. Now it's time for us to check out what you folks have on the brain. It is time for a little bit of your volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options. or facebook.com/The Options Insider.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol voicemail. Let's kick it off here. Andrew, we're just talking about, I think I like your technical term, the road to Palookaville. You said the road to Palookaville for VXX could be severe after they split next week. Ed Hale looks like he's listening live. He says when VXX splits, it's always mass premium destruction. So there you go. He's on the VXX reverse split bandwagon there as well. Sounds like a lot of you are. Be interesting to see next week what we have going up out there, what the hot trades are, and what you folks, everyone's been writing in. When are we going to see it? When are we going to see it? If you guys are getting back out there in force and trading up a storm. All right, let's go on out to, let's see. This is a question. This question is great because it's kind of emblematic of what I've been expecting for a while. And I know we have a lot of new participants in the markets, a lot of new listeners to the network. So they're coming at this from a very different perspective, and that's reflected here by Zeely KW. Zeely KW says, "Hey, Mr. Longo." They're so polite to listeners. "Hope everything is well over there. This is Chris here with a very general question. I was listening to the Options Insider Radio Network," he says in parentheses, "taking your advice and branching off of boot camp to the tons of other content you have." Yes, we have a lot of new people who come into us through shows like Options Boot Camp. We love you all, but if you're just listening to Boot Camp, you're missing out on a whole bunch of other stuff that we do here throughout the week. So if you like Boot Camp, welcome to all of our new listeners who are coming through shows like Boot Camp. We love you all here. He says, "I'm listening." Oh, yeah, he's listening to our interview this week. He says, "The president of Sterling Trading said something along the lines of, years ago, a 400% IV was something rare and didn't think he could see a 1,000% implied vol in his lifetime." Again, obviously, he was referring to GameStop listeners. He says, "Apologies for the vagueness of the question, but picking your brain, what does this mean for newer traders? As someone new to the market during these crazy times, what do you think of now versus then? How to adapt or go about the changes? I wonder because when I entered the market, I'm so used to extreme volatility. Does this come in phases? Can we expect some, quote, normalness in the coming years?" Oh, I like the ending here. "Also, just want to let you know I envy your outstandingly sophisticated vocabulary. Thanks as always. Love the show." Well, thank you for that great question, Zeely KW. I know a lot of you have been lurking in the show for a while who probably have a very similar question because you're new to these markets and you've just come to expect a VIX north of 30, the market's swinging plus or minus 1% a day. A name like GameStop can trade a 1,000 volatility, and it seems like normalcy. Calls and equity options should be bid over puts. Things that are aberrant are normal to you. So I'm always curious what your viewpoint is. John, I'm curious for you too. I think you're a good one to talk to about this question because you have an interesting perspective. You were a market maker back in the day. You've traded books. You've seen vol ebb and flow through many different cycles out there. What do you have to say for Zeely KW and everyone else out there who's listening, who's kind of in that boat where what should they expect going forward? What they've seen is obviously not normal, but is this maybe the new normal, John?
I think it is the new normal. I think that that the pending, obviously, markets change when there's obviously big sell-offs, but there is no big sell-off in the works right now. And when they do come, they're unexpected. But what I would say is GameStop, it just lasted a lot longer. I have seen over the years in my trading 1-day versions of GameStop, 5 days, and 2-week versions, especially around, as you guys have probably talked at times about biotech and phase 1, 2, and 3. I've seen this before, but the velocity kind of the vol gets so high, people stop trading, and then the vol gets run up to a certain level, and then no one trades, and then you just kind of wait for it to happen. But this was different. This was all over the place. This was a company that the pros said is going to go to zero, and then others said, no, it's not. And then the game changer for me was when these stocks got high and the companies turned around and did secondary. And now that kind of changes the whole thing. It's like, because the pros are saying this company's going out of business because they have no money. And then in the middle of this, they do a big fundraise, and they raise a lot of money. And now it's like, well, now they're not going out of business. They do have a lot of money, and it's a whole new dynamic. So I'm on board with this. This is here, and it's going to change things. Then the way people look at investing is going to change dramatically.
Mr. Rock Lobster, I'm sure you have a lot of people in your pit chat who are new entrants who are kind of like Zeely KW here. This is the normal they expect now. They expect extremely elevated VIX. They expect crazy developments like GameStop on an almost regular basis. So what do you have to say for, as someone new to the markets during these crazy times, what do you think about now versus then, how to adapt or go about the changes, sir?
I agree with Shelley, because obviously he's like all old market makers like the rest of us, been slapped around by stuff exploding in our faces a few times. So this isn't the first time. What I have noticed is just a couple of broader trends is like broader market trends ever since the Fed has gotten like ultra active since 2008. And even going back to like, I feel like this mid-90s, there was a little sea change where the Fed got a little more active. Remember, we used to say the Greenspan put, the Bernanke put. We would giggle and laugh. I feel like we get kind of sharper, longer periods of volatility in the market from like. So I'm just looking at my 30-year history. I feel like we get sharper spikes now. Also, because of the internet, I think we are seeing higher vol. So if anything's a trend, yes, I have lived through a bunch of 200, 300, 400 vol. I remember on the floor when guys, anytime you had a triple digit vol, all the old guys would come from upstairs, come down to the floor with just their red tickets and just sell calls and blue tickets and sell puts and just sell the crap out of it because 100 vol was stupid. But even then you'd have a 200 vol move the next day, and they were like, "Wait a minute!" So I learned early about vol can get real high. What I've noticed with what I'll just call it the democratization of trading via Reddit and Wall Street Bets and all this other stuff. I think if there is if there's a movement to move into a stock, you're going to see these crazy vols again, 100%. Can all of this stuff dry up in 6 weeks and the vol will never be close to what it is right now? Yes. So volatility is a conditional thing based on how the market moves. We said it over and over and over. Even 200 vol is cheap if the market's moving at a 400 vol in stock is. So everything is relative, how. You can get a little spoiled, though, because you have stocks right now that, it's just like a stock going up 30 or 40% every day. It was like, woohoo, that I think will eventually calm down as the market settles down, and it just doesn't work anymore. Now, if you get that move, I think there's going to be more institutions that are out there like, hey, we own some of this and we're going to sell it. I think some people like the GameStop. Folks that owned it that didn't sell it, I don't even know what you'd be thinking, right? How if you don't have a huge position in GameStop, you don't get rid of it when it was above 250? Like, oh my God, that would, just. So anyway, I think, but yeah, I think we will get deeper, sharper, as long as the Fed is as active as they are. Again, my opinion on this, we're going to get because they're trying to smooth everything out. So when they can't quite smooth it out, the reaction is going to be worse. And we're probably all going to suffer for it. And vol will spike. As far as individual stocks, I think 1,000 vol, basically, I saw markets that they're just not trading anymore. We'll just call those the soup Nazi markets, right? Where no trading for you. Like the liquidity providers say, screw you all, it's 1,000 vol, it's $10 wide, and nobody's making any money. Even if you want to buy options that are, $500 out of the money, that option's still $60. And that's what's going to happen. So we have seen, I think, I don't know if you can call it the top in vol, but certainly when you see in a market that's, at least the way I look at it, just, it's untradeable for the retail person. So super interesting last 4 months, no question. But I'm convinced we will see more vol. We'll see sharp periods of it. And it will come from a relatively benign place like it normally does.
Yeah, we could probably do many episodes on this topic of what all these legions of new entrants to the space, maybe what they can expect, what's aberrant by what they're seeing right now. I encourage anyone who's new to the network, if you got some time, go back, check out some of the shows we did back in, let's say, 2017, across the board of the network. That was an entire year, pretty much, where VIX languished in the single digits. So if you think this is the way it has to stay and it can't go back to not much vol, it can't. And so just listen to some of those shows and hear about what we were talking about, what trading or what little trading there was going up in a year like that. And that'll give you some frame of reference. That wasn't that long ago. And that was a completely different time, completely different market, completely different vol regime than we're in right now. But fascinating stuff. Again, this is a topic that I think we'll probably have to delve into more in the future, because I know there's a lot of people out there in a similar boat who they've come into the markets, and we're glad to see so many new entrants to the option space. This has blown away anyone's expectations, but maybe giving them some more realistic expectations of what to expect going forward from the market might be a good thing. As we keep on rolling, speaking of expectations, it's time to see if ours were correct. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, everybody, welcome to the crystal ball. This is, of course, where we attempt to prognosticate what the vol gods hold in store for us for the coming week. This time last week, we had myself and the Meatball guessing, and Mr. Meatball was feeling a 15 handle. He felt 1583. I was a little bit more muted in my vol implosion. I said 1645. And depending where you look, both of those predictions actually look pretty decent right now. Obviously, Spikes is leaning the Meatball way. Spikes is at a 1555 right now, so he's off 0.28 there for he's actually high. He's actually high on his 1583 for Spikes, which is crazy. And then, of course, he's a bit of a way away on VIX Cash, because it's at about a 1632 or so right now, which puts me about 0.12 away, 0.13 away here on the VIX Cash from my product, which is almost within our margin of victory. Our bullseye is 0.1. So that's where we like to be. So I'm right at that cusp. I'm sure if I wait a couple of seconds, it'll probably tick in my favor. So I'm going to go out there and say I claim it for this week here. Mr. Meatball was close. He was about a third of a point away on Spikes, much farther away on VIX Cash. So it's nice to have the two indices there. We get double shots at trying to make some sense of what Spikes is feeling its downside oats this week. So that means I get to go first, or I shall choose who gets to go first. And you know what? I'm going to be charitable. John, you have not been on the show since before the election. So there's a lot to unpack in what you're thinking and what you're looking at out there. So what are you feeling this time next week, sir, from an overall vol perspective, sir?
I think it will move. How's that sound? As a member of an exchange, we don't trade. We just follow. So we're as interested to see where the market goes anyone. But, I think there's movement coming. But I think for the relative short term, it's going to be kind of choppy. So I'm in the choppy mode.
I'll let you off the hook with that, sir. Mr. Rock Lobster, how about this? I'll be nice. I will allow you to go second. What are you feeling for this time next week from a vol perspective, sir?
I was confused on this, and then ultimately I'm like, you know what? 1569 next week. There's my number. 1569.
Got to make those 16 puts look pretty good.
Yes.
Talking a little bit of downside. I can't say I'm faulting you for that. We are seeing the vol want to erode. Spikes is already there. Spikes is already below your level there. So Spikes got ahead of all of that. So I'll have to go look at the Spikes puts out the alerts for what's going on with the divergence with the VIX to see what's driving it. Usually when it's to the upside, it's a premium with the SPY dividend. But to the downside, it's something interesting. So I'll have to go dig in a little bit and see what is causing that. In the meantime, though, this time next week, I can't say I'm faulting you with a 15 handle there, Mr. Rock Lobster. I was feeling a little bit in the 15 handle, maybe not quite as aggressive, kind of closer to where the Meatball was for this week. I'm going to say, I'll give you a little bit of space to breathe a little bit to the downside too. So I'm going to say 1589 for myself. So there you go. 1569 to the dark side. So he gets all that space below me. I'm so charitable here. I get 1589 here. John chooses the ever political choppy. All right, listeners, that music means we've come to the end of another epic sojourn through the world of volatility views. But before we go, let's go back around the horn and see what folks have cooking up. John, hit us again if folks want to check out that cool new tool you guys are working there over there on MIAX. Where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Yeah, they can go right to the MIAXoptions.com. It's right there on the link into the Vesca people, and the ship product is right on the front page, and it will take you in. It's nice and smooth, and you get to find out what's going on.
Check it out for yourselves. MIAXoptions.com is the place to go to begin your journey. And of course, MIAXoptions.com/spikes gets you to all that fun spikes data, the video, what the heck is spikes, historical data, press releases you can see on the next evolution of spikes is coming along, including a link to a cool show called Volatility Views. What more could you ask for from a volatility-oriented destination listeners? And of course, you want to learn more about all things execution services and trading tech. You know where to go. It's matrixexecutions.com, MATRIX executions.com, the place to go for execution services and trading technology. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks are intrigued, they have questions like Zeely KW and others do about what the heck they're seeing these days in the market, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Jump on over to optionpit.com. Go to we just covered that right now in our Vol Edge class, where you did some live vol education every week. And Mark's got a pretty awesome track record of ideas. So come on in. My vol trading club ain't doing too bad either this year. So if you want to see how that vol trades and understand how to structure the positions around these crazy VIX futures, come on in to optionpit.com, Vol Edge or Vol Trade Club.
Get while the getting is good, optionpit.com. On behalf of Mr. Rock Lobster and John, everybody over there in the land of MIAX, everybody over there in Matrix, and indeed myself, I want to thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing. Of course, this concludes our broadcast week here. I thank all of you for listening live or listening after the fact. We love all of you. We'll be back again on Monday, kick it all off again with the option block all the way through to Friday. Another episode of Volatility Views.
Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest, most efficient trading platforms in the world. MIAX is proud to bring you Spikes Volatility products. Spikes options and futures are traded on the Spikes Volatility Index, SPIKE, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction, all for ultra-low exchange fees. It's Volatility reimagined. Learn more about spikes at MIAXoptions.com/spikes. Options and futures involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution and trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.